your way. And
Welcome, everybody, to the Fox 12 Weather Podcast, episode 145. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Fox 12 meteorologist Katie Zuniga, joined by Camila Orti. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm excited that we get to do this podcast together. This is the
I
first time, I think, just us 2.
Just the two of us. How
Mhm.
exciting. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to it. What we have going on for you today is a recap of the weather so far in July. I know you and Mark talked about 4th of July stuff together last week, so I didn't want to redo some of that information. We're going to take a look at what's next. We
Mhm.
have a very relevant term of the week that we thought was pretty important to go over with all of you. Obviously, our awesome viewer photos. And then whenever I'm in control of the topics, I always like to throw a little something different in there. So this week I'm calling it Climate Corner.
Climate corner. I'm stoked.
And I brought it up because for those of you that are listening that don't know, on Wednesdays, I do a Fox 12 weather segment on the Fox 12 Now digital channel.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, people that are watching it live throw in some questions for me. And one of them was a climate question. And I thought, just with the temperatures that we have with our first alert days, it just kind of went really well with what we have coming up here for our forecast. And I'm trying to get to where I can drive this thing and talk to you all at the same time. Oh, I know how I do it. There we go. Can
See?
see. I want to be able to see Camilla's face and the slides at the same time. So
The
I
multitasking required when you're driving this thing is
yes, have a
next
little
level, folks.
behind the scenes stuff going on here. Okay, so recent weather. First, I
Mhm.
wanted to talk about just our drought because this is something I get asked all the time about.
Mhm.
So here's the most current drought status. Now, from what I understand, dry is not technically considered drought. It's
Right.
just dry.
Let's try.
So the areas that you see moderate, severe, and then in Oregon, we don't quite have any extreme. Hopefully, we don't get there, but it's mainly the northeast corner. You can see around Baker City, Pendleton, and then the Portland metro and some of the valley areas are in severe, all the way up into some areas in southwest Washington. And then basically from the Cascades to the west, from the coast down to about Medford, we're also in the moderate. And we've seen that even though we hit our rain last month for
Mhm.
that one day,
Yeah.
it didn't help
Yeah.
anything. It didn't help us at all. So we are going through our driest month of the season
Mhm.
in moderate and severe on the west side of the Cascades. Today is the last day. Our high temperature is 81. Tomorrow,
Nice.
the average turns to 82, which is not quite our seasonal high, but we are getting fairly close to that as we get toward the end of July, beginning of August is when we hit that 84. And we
Mhm.
are going to talk about in the climate corner kind of what this all means and why and how it's used, why we talk about this so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know you guys talked a little about some of this, but I wanted to recap for those that maybe missed it or just kind of drive home the importance of the weather that we've been having has been very consistent,
Yeah.
the last couple of weeks. And that's because we've had this strong high pressure offshore and then some lows that are more inland. And that's where we get that, pretty persistent onshore flow as the air is flowing from the high to the low. And what that is, if hopefully, I hope you're watching this because you'll be able to get a little more out of it other than listening.
Yeah.
But what I have here is an image of the jet stream on Wednesday, which is just about the time we're expecting to see the shift of that high pressure. It looks like it's going to start backing down rather than shifting over.
That's great.
And you can see, if you remember this image before, where that low pressure is sitting kind of it's just inside Washington off to the
Mhm.
east. If you look, it's a little farther to the east, a little more Idaho, Montana, but it's not too far off from where we're actually seeing it. So that model compared to what we're seeing, that graphic
Pretty
is about
close.
the same, yes.
Yeah.
So this is called the Pacific High. So the North Pacific High in the summer is this semi-permanent high pressure system that stretches over the Northeast Pacific. And so it's known as the Pacific High. It's also what kind of suppresses some of our thunderstorm activity, why we
Mhm.
don't and tornadic activity. It's kind of what keeps us from getting those real tall, thunderstorms and able to get some of that spinning that we need in the upper atmosphere. But it does so it spins in the clockwise motion, producing that northerly or northwesterly winds along the West Coast and North America. So then that
Mhm.
thermal low, which is over the desert Southwest and inland of the Northwest, which I just showed you, all at the same time in the interior Western US, we experience this, Washington on the east, Oregon, Idaho,
Mhm.
Colorado. So that's when things really heat up.
Yeah.
So this creates that thermal low and a broad area of low pressure that's off to our east. So all this airflow is kind of like in between it, right? So it's coming from the northwest, and then you have that thermal low off to the east, and it creates that airflow, which means it's, onshore for us and then
Mhm.
offshore on the other side, which basically moves and gives us that cool northwest flow. So the
Yep.
other thing is the terrainal channeling. So we talk about the orientation of the coastline, the Columbia River Gorge. Everything flows kind of in a northwest to a southeast flow. The coastal mountains and the Cascade sort of funnel those winds, and that helps us get that northwest flow because you have the low to the east, the
Mhm.
high to the west, and
Right.
puts it right through. So
Has to do with pressure gradient, and the reason that thermal low forms east of the Cascades because of that desert climate, it's
mhm.
typically hotter, so you get all that rising air, and basically that's the low pressure air
Yep.
wants to rush in to fill that void.
Yep. So, what that means for us, for our weather, is that we get that marine air pushing inland. It
Mhm.
often creates the morning clouds, which sometimes can be a forecast bust
Yep.
for us along the coast and into the valleys, especially the metro. We get the cooler temperatures here on this side of the Cascades. We get the afternoon clearing, which I think yesterday was like prime example
Yeah,
of
glorious.
it was so cloudy when I came in, and I
Yep.
needed my sunglasses when I left.
Yep, exactly.
So, yep. So, as you hear us say this all the time on air, we sometimes call this the natural air conditioning of the Pacific Northwest.
Yep.
So that's where that comes. And then I just wanted to show you a map here. This is a couple days back, but just showing that perfect,
Mhm.
northwest flow of those winds. This is the gusts that we had that day. So not too gusty, but just a very, very persistent flow.
Mhm.
So that's what's been happening. That's what we're seeing, and that's where we've landed here with our highs so far. Actually have a good mix there.
Yeah.
We have some cooler, some warmer. First 90-degree day, right, of the season on the 7th.
Yep.
Remembering that
Got a
right? So
couple in a row. Yep.
couple in a row, then we dropped to a couple of 80s in a row. We'll
Mhm.
see. So you did the forecast last night, right?
Drew did it
Oh,
actually.
Drew did it? Okay. I was
Yep,
gonna
but
pick your brain about dropping those temperatures and
I
what you were
well, yeah, I
seeing.
was gonna ask you what you were seeing with the 850s because it seems like it's just that ridge is not gonna be quite as strong as what models were initially, spitting
Mhm.
out,
Well, I'm
which is
glad you
great.
asked because we're gonna talk about what's next.
Perfect.
So here's what we have. This is our 7-day forecast. I didn't change it much really
Mhm.
from what we had. I was going to take some clouds. There were a few more clouds on it yesterday, and I was gonna
Yep.
take those out, but it looks like you guys handled that.
Uh-huh.
Dropped the highs into the upper 80s, only one low 90-day on Sunday.
Yep.
Cooler on Monday, which is
Yep.
panning out with everything I'm seeing this morning, and then removed the 100-degree day on
I
Wednesday.
was happy to see that, but we're still
Yes,
going 99, so it's still gonna be
yes,
uncomfortably hot, but, it's
yeah.
nice to not see triple
Well,
digits.
if Mark had done this forecast, it would either be 98 or
I know.
100.
I was gonna say he would lose it with all the 9s and 7s that you're seeing here.
He'll be back on Saturday, so you just watch, you wait and
Yeah.
see. That will be adjusted. Okay. So what I have here is this is now the jet stream Thursday morning. So after the peak of the temperatures on Wednesday. And if you'll notice, it looks like there's almost a cutoff low starting to form there kind of to our almost a little to our west southwest, and that
Uh-huh.
high, do you see how far that's backed off?
Yeah, a
it's
lot.
it's dropped way down and actually retrograded a little
Mhm.
instead of moved in that we would expect the traditional easterly flow. So it's backed down, and that's where I'm seeing the most differences in the models. Is some have a trough dropping down directly over us
Uh-huh.
as the high backs off. Some keep it over to the east a little, and then some are showing this. So there's a lot of disagreement around Wednesday, Thursday right now. Of
Mhm.
course, it wouldn't be a Foxwell podcast without a 500 millibar
Height
GIF.
anomaly,
Go through.
had to do it.
Uh-huh. Had to do it. Had to do it. I wouldn't be doing my due diligence. So what I'm seeing here, so the euro is on the left and the
Yep.
GFS is on the right. They're about the same time frames. I dropped them back to the 0Z because at this time of day, the 12 just doesn't go out far enough. It hasn't rendered enough, so I
Yeah.
dropped it back a bit. Both of them are showing just a little dip. Let me see when it
Yeah.
goes back, what time that is. Around Friday, Saturday next week. And then if you look at the GFS, it's about the same, but it goes a little earlier.
Uh-huh.
So they're a little off, but they both show things at least backing off past
Mhm.
midweek next week as far as the difference in the heights. Okay, so here's your question.
Yes.
This is the 0Z Euro, the entire run. So I highlighted here a couple things. If you look on Sunday, it actually has the 850s warmer, but it has a northerly flow. And then if you
Yeah.
slide over to the surface, it's still a northwest.
Uh-huh.
So even though those 850s are higher, the not having, having that northerly component, it's still going to get hot on Sunday. We still have a good
Mhm.
chance of things mixing down. And then if you drop down to Tuesday, Wednesday, 850s aren't as high, but there's an easterly flow,
Easterly one. Yeah.
and then also at the surface on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So if you kind of look at the peak temperatures of this on Wednesday, the Euro has 97, but it only has in the upper 80s on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So it's backed off
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a
quite a
big
bit.
difference. If you're
And then
getting
the
that cooler marine air, filtering in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I just have to throw this in. Look at the precipitation. It says that something might come in on Tuesday, like a hundredth of an inch.
That's interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm not
Mm.
seeing, much of else. I mean, you can see barely any clouds, not much
Mhm.
cape, like, it's pretty boring, but I
Yeah.
definitely am seeing that, and then if you go to the GFS, it's even lower on your
Oh, great.
850s, and it's not as much of an easterly flow both at the 850 or at the surface. At the surface, it's
Mhm.
very, very light,
Yeah.
and that has it at 95, but a little warmer on Tuesday in
Yeah.
the upper 80s.
That's interesting. I think at one point, I can't remember if it was the GFS or the Euro, had us in the low to mid 20s for those 850s. I think I was
Mhm,
seeing a 24 at one point. So
mhm.
that, I mean, that really backed it off, which
There
is
was some,
excellent.
I think at one point, the euro had us at, like, 103,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's dropped down. So that's your morning. The euro only does we only do the euro for 0 and 12, but I do
Mhm.
have the GFS at 6 or 6E, so that's the
Yeah.
most updated that I have there. So it's definitely backing off, and then if you happen to just drop all the way down to Sunday,
Mhm.
if you look over, you can see it's supposed to be pretty cloudy.
Yeah.
This clouds building in on Sunday, so
Mhm.
we shall see where that goes.
Mhm.
Uh, so with this heat, we're not quite ready to back it off completely yet, but we're definitely watching it. No records.
Yeah. It's
Y-
looking more and more unlikely, yeah.
mhm,
So, yeah, this I was looking at just kind of the list of, mid-July high temperature records in Portland, and it really seems like we have to be in that 102 to 104 range,
mhm.
to make a run at breaking anything.
Yeah, and if we don't have the east wind and it's more
Yeah,
north or onshore, there's no way we're going to stay that warm overnight either.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
we're I think so 70 is the low from Tuesday into or so this is the record for Tuesday into
Mhm.
Wednesday. At one point it looked like we could do that when we had that, offshore flow, but now it's
Yeah.
backing off and 74 is the all-time record for July low temp
Oh, good to
oh,
know.
hot
Mhm.
overnight temperature. Yep.
And we're going
So
upper 60s just for reference
for
for
right
that
now,
day.
yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
The summer outlook, so I pulled the most updated CPC for July, August, and September. It is still showing us at about 50% likely above normal
Mhm.
for a majority of the state. The northwest corner, just slightly less chance of being
Mhm.
above normal, but definitely going to be hot over, Nevada and all
Yeah, over the
those
Four
areas.
Corners. Yeah.
Yep, exactly, in those areas there, and then rain, I thought this was kind of funny, everything to the northwest is below, everything
Yeah.
to our south, like around, I don't know, California, Arizona, New Mexico,
Mhm.
is all looking like it might actually be a little above or average for
Mhm.
the rainfall down there. So, this is a teaser ahead to the climate corner. One of
Oh,
the questions I got was, are our summers getting hotter or are we just getting wimpier?
yeah,
And the most recent data shows that the average that we give you and we say, "Oh, the average temperature," it's a 30-year average that's updated every 10 years. Right now in the Northwest, we're running anywhere from a half to a degree annually warmer than
yeah.
we did the previous that 30-year average. So,
Mhm.
there's your teaser for your climate corner, and we'll get into that a little more, but for now,
Mhm.
we're gonna get into that term of the week, which is Camilla's.
Mhm.
Take it
Yes,
away.
and I have some reveals here, so you might have to tap
Yeah.
multiple times. But, yeah, so we decided to kind of dive into what happened in Central Texas. Obviously,
Mhm.
this has been, you know, headlining, news for the last week or so, based on what happened, the terrible flooding. So we wanted to go over the term thousand-year flood or hundred-year flood, because forecasters are calling what happened in Central Texas a thousand-year flood. So what does that mean? Do a little tappy here. Yeah, so the year number actually refers to something that we call a recurrence interval. So this doesn't mean a thousand-year flood happens. Okay, we don't expect one for another 1,000 years. It does mean it's very rare. But what a recurrence interval is, and I pulled this from USGS, the average number of years, or you could almost say the expected number of years between floods of a certain size. That's the recurrence interval. So what you're actually getting is a ratio or a probability. So in any given year, if there's a 100-year flood, that means 1 divided by 100 or 1% chance of that sort of event happening that year. 500 years is a 0.2% chance. 1,000 years, 1 divided by 1,000, 0.1% chance. So uh, of course, incredible. I mean, what we saw happening in Central Texas was absolutely just gnarly, very rare. But we are seeing more and more of these kind of extreme weather events
Mhm.
happening because of climate change. Anything you want to add to this, Katie?
No, you that was great. I
Okay.
looked it over and I was like, "She's got this. I don't need to."
Okay.
I don't the only
Yeah.
thing I would add is that when I learned this stuff as I was going through school, I
Uh-huh.
I found it incredibly fascinating. I
Yeah.
actually hadn't heard of it until I got my degree. I was getting my degree, and I
Yeah.
found it very fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, and it is kind if you don't, like, hear these terms all the time, it's very you would understand why someone would misinterpret what a 100-year,
Mm,
a 1,000-year flood means, but,
mhm,
you can get multiple of those events happening, you can get back-to-back 1,000-year floods, year to year, so,
mhm.
okay, so I wanted to just kind of briefly we could probably do an entire podcast over the synoptic conditions, leading to what happened in Central Texas, but I just kinda wanted to summarize with bullet points, so there were a lot of ingredients in place that led to the incredible rainfall. I mean, some places getting 2 feet of rain in a matter of, an hour or 2. So basically what happened there is we had tons of moisture in the atmosphere left over from a couple storms. There was a tropical storm, also a hurricane. So those remnants were still kind of swirling in the area. You also had a low-level jet pulling in even more moisture from the Gulf inland into Texas. And then this is, something we also learned recently in, school, something called a
Mhm,
mesoscale convective vortex, or an
mhm,
MCV formed, and basically what this is, it's a center of low pressure, but it forms after you get this cluster or system of thunderstorms that were popping up. So you had a lot of these powerful thunderstorms popping up, and enough so that you start to get a rotation and you start to get a center of low pressure that forms. And basically, that can just keep things rolling. It can set off more storms and really sustain that heavy rainfall into
mhm,
one area. And because the jet stream was still pretty far to the north, there was nothing pushing that MCV around. So it just sat. It just sat
mhm.
and spun and spawned more thunderstorms, and that's why you got this incredible amount of rainfall in that area. in a short amount of time. And I'm not super familiar with the geography and the
Mhm.
terrain of Texas, but I was reading that, the area where this happened, very hilly. So you have, of course, water just rushing down into the valley, and the soil content has a lot of limestone, which kind of acts like concrete or cement.
Mm.
It just kind of
Mhm.
rushes. There's
Mhm.
nothing that absorbs into that soil. So
Yep.
all combination of factors leading to those flash floods. So yeah, pretty incredible from a meteorological standpoint.
Yeah, and, the only thing I would wanna add to this is, talking about that MCV is that,
Hmm.
we talk about here, we point out, cutoff lows and we kind
Hmm.
of say, "Oh, cutoff low, weather person, woe," and, they just meander around and they're hard to predict. I mean, that literally to me is the perfect example of, you know, you don't have those all the things in place that you typically have that how things are going to flow and move. So when
Yeah,
that cuts off, the likelihood of it going anywhere it wants to, it's a ping pong ball or a pinball
exactly.
machine ball, it can just go wherever it wants because it doesn't have that steering wind. And so
Yes.
my thought was that might be, and without doing extensive research, part of the reason that played into the fact that there's a lot of why weren't we warned sooner? Why weren't we
Yeah.
warned sooner? Well, I would think that might have had something to do with it, as if it's not moving as it,
It's not
should.
predictable. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So that could have made it harder for them to know
Yeah.
what was coming because it wasn't as predictable with it
Well,
being out of
and I
time.
will add, not to get into the whole, politics, because we don't know, we don't live in the area, but I'm starting to see more stories come out that, forecasters were doing their job and warning with as much, time as they could. Sometimes county, statewide warning systems or communication systems aren't quite talking to each other like they should, and that can delay in those warnings getting out. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just a really, really sad situation. Tough.
Yeah. Yep. So that's our term of the week
Hmm.
as we look at the 1,000-year flood. So that
Hmm.
might be a good thing to dive into. And then, of course, it's again not a Fox 12 Weather podcast without some viewer photos. So if you haven't ever submitted anything, there's two ways you can do it. You can do it through your phone or you can do it through your computer, depending on which way you want. If you do it with your phone, we would love it if you could turn it horizontal. You'll see the difference between a horizontal and a vertical picture, but we love anything
Hmm.
we can get. And we also do videos too. We
Yeah,
love
that's
your
true.
weather videos. Those are always a great one for us.
Yeah. Okay, so we had some pretty cool submissions. It's always hard to like just select a few, but
Hmm.
this one was nice. A picture of the sunrise in Vancouver. Cassandra sent this in. This was the morning of the 4th of July. And
Hmm.
I really like this because you can also see some crepuscular rays.
Ooh.
Yeah, which is fun. It's basically like you get light rays kind of filtering through, and that's just because of the sun angle. Things are refracting, more differently uh, early in the day and late in the day around sunset too. So it just has a very cool effect.
I got a pretty incredible time lapse when this was about the time she probably took this that
Yeah.
I shared, and I paused it just before this happened. And so I paused it and then I let it run, and you can just see that move across the sky. It was
Yeah,
just a gorgeous sunrise
that's
on
really cool.
the 4th of July.
Yeah. Okay, this was just a nice shot of
Mhm.
Frog Lake. Derek sent this in. Beautiful reflection there of Mount Hood in the water. So it just looks
Crystal
very
blue
peaceful.
skies.
Yeah, so
I love
nice.
that. Beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah, and then this was a
This
fun
looks
one too.
so cool.
Uh-huh. So this was recently. I can't remember exactly what day it was. Was it early in the week? Anyway, we had a few kind of pop-up thunderstorm opportunities east of the Cascades.
Mhm.
But some of these were dry thunderstorms, meaning they didn't really produce any rain that's reaching the ground. But what you can see in this picture is Virga. So you can
Mm.
see, water droplets coming down from the cloud base, but they just evaporate because the air is so dry. So very cool. You can see that kind of towering cumulus cloud. So Stephanie, thank you for sending this in. This was
Yeah.
snapped in Sandy.
I
Again, I
love
wish
that.
I would have remembered what day it was, but it was in the last week.
Yeah, I was trying to remember I was trying to think back onto what days, but this week has
Yeah.
been a little busy for me,
Crazy.
so try to
Yeah.
remember what day, what happened. So yes, again, please feel free to send these. We a lot of times
Mhm.
too, they're great for us because you guys can capture things. We can't be everywhere and we have cameras around the region, but stuff happens in places we don't have cameras. So
Right.
when you get pictures and video, we absolutely love it. Love it, love, love.
Yes,
So
and we use them on air too, on TV to help explain some of these things, some of these weather phenomena, so it's great.
yeah. Yep, exactly. And they're fun. Your dog photos. I've been trying
Oh,
to incorporate in a morning dog walk forecast for folks that need to
perfect.
walk in the mornings, and we use them for all those kind of things. Okay, so today's Katie's Climate Corner.
Katie's Climate Corner.
I did the one with Peyton a couple weeks ago. Now I can't remember what I called it, but it was basically um, like a forecasting something that we're working on, like
Oh,
how
like a
how
behind the scenes kinda thing.
yeah, we're when we're looking at the temperatures like we have now, how we work and what we do to predict, is there gonna be full mixing? What is the mixing potential? And
Uh-huh.
what does that mean? And what are we looking at? And so we dove into that. So it was really fun to just kinda go whether
So
it's
science-y.
exactly, a little nerdy. Gotta make sure we're bringing the content when Mark isn't here.
Oh,
So
yeah. Oh, yeah.
okay.
But it's even better when there's an alliteration, so Katie's Climate Corner is just chef's kiss.
Thank you. I try that. Okay, so, like I said, we get asked, "Are we getting hotter? Are we getting drier? Are we getting wetter?" And
Mhm,
so I thought it would be good to just talk about climate for a moment, especially as we're getting into some of these warmer things. So, the annual mean temperature change. So statewide, many stations show an average of about a half to a degree and a half higher than they were during the 1981 to 2010 normal. So this warming is widespread across the West, including in Oregon. So this is that map I showed you earlier, showing
mhm,
the variation and that color of the temperature. And then as far as the precipitation goes, changes vary by region and season. So some areas show slightly wetter patterns, while others, especially in the Southwest, have become drier. Oregon specific month by month shifts are mixed. So some months tend to be wetter, while others are tending to be drier, though the annual totals are remaining closer to normal. So
mm.
where, like I've felt like things have been a little more dry,
Yeah,
digging into this is showing that, there are some months that are getting wetter, maybe they're shifting, but just
right.
in general, we're actually, when you look at the whole year, they're saying that we're remaining pretty close to normal. And that if you're watching this, you can see that the 0 mark of being right on average is white, and
Yeah,
most of everything on the west side, there's a couple
west of the
little spots.
Cascades.
Yeah,
Yeah,
west of the Cascades is in that normal. Looks a little drier off to the east.
yeah,
So that's where we are with the annual precipitation change.
yeah.
So, the National Weather Service, they maintain these. So it's 30-year normals that are shared through their daily and monthly climate summary. Sorry, that E got cut off there for stations across the US. We commonly use them in weather broadcasts and newspapers and media venues. So the use of the 30-year normals allows us to provide context for weather and extreme events on a daily and annual time scale. So the average temperature during February, cold outbreak, and then things like that, like we can tell, how are we different from normal? Because I mean, I feel like you would be too. I just constantly get, is this normal?
Right.
Is this normal? Are we supposed to be this hot? Are we supposed to
Yeah,
be this wet? And so, we say this a lot because we get asked this a lot.
yeah, it
So
provides a good baseline just for perspective, but to Katie's point, these are changing over the years, and they
yep,
adapt based on what we're seeing, in those 30-year periods.
yep. So again, 30-year period, and they update it. Oh, I thought I had one more. Where did that last one go? Oh, I guess it's gone. I thought I had one more slide for us all, but looks like
That's okay.
that went away. So
I was just gonna add, because another interesting thing, and it's pretty evident when you look at the graphics too. We have those graphics that are like 100-degree days in the summer or 90+ degree days in the summer, and you can see how many total we're getting. We've seen more of those hotter days in recent years. If we could stretch that graphic and show you all the way back to 1940, you'd see a very clear trend with more of those 90 plus 100-degree days.
mhm.
Um, Yeah, because if you've lived in the Pacific Northwest long enough, I hear it all the time. People will be like, "Oh, 25 years ago, we never used to get 100-degree days," stuff like not never, but,
Yeah.
that's kind of the gist is, yeah, we're seeing more of those really hot days.
Yeah, and it's, seasonally, it's definitely, as we saw on that map, it's definitely gone up, or definitely, getting a little more warm, half a degree to a
Mhm.
degree and a half. But
Yeah.
I found it most interesting when it talked about the rainfall total. Like
Yeah.
I was thinking in my head, just in the years that I've been an Oregonian, which is, majority of my life because I was born here. Um, I always used to feel like we had more rain and snow in December,
Uh-huh.
and now it feels like we get more like January, February,
Yeah,
but just to
shifting.
see it's shifting the timing of the year, but to see that
Yeah.
we're getting about the same, that actually relieved me a little because I'm constantly thinking about, now that I'm a meteorologist, fire season
Yeah.
and drought status and water and all that kind of stuff, and so
Mhm.
to know on average we're about the same, that was kind of like a
Right. Yeah, yeah, or it seems like, yeah, fire season is almost extending a little bit longer, it's pushing a little bit more into the fall, that drier season.
And, that's the other thing I was gonna say is what feels like to me is a shift, is I also
Mhm.
feel like the falls used to be a lot wetter, and
Yeah.
now I feel like we can make it through September. It just feels like it to me. I'm not
Right,
saying this
yeah,
scientifically, just as
yeah,
a human being that, goes outside, I feel
yeah,
like sometimes Septembers are pretty awesome
yeah, yeah,
here.
and I feel like the data would probably back that up too, if we're looking at, like, September rainfall over the last 20 years, I do think it's been trending drier in
Yeah,
recent years, yeah,
yeah, and then shifting a bit, so
yeah.
that's exciting. Okay, any final thoughts or anything about what's happened, what's coming up, or anything like that?
I don't think so. It was just good to catch up with you. What's new in the gardening world? I have to ask you what's going on in your
Oh.
garden right now. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, if I should have brought pictures.
Yeah.
I could share pictures. For those, that don't know, so I got into a community garden this
Uh-huh.
year. My backyard is a hill, and my house faces the front faces southwest. So I just get a little morning sun. I've tried to garden there for a couple of years, move pots around, followed the sun, and I've just been completely unsuccessful. So
Mm.
I got into a community garden, and I was able to plant. I got in just in time to plant in May, and it has been going gangbusters with the
Really?
weather that we have had. It's amazing. I had enough raspberries to make jam. So I
Ooh,
have some homemade jam, plus just eating my raspberries while I'm gardening is so much fun.
yeah.
I have 3 types of tomatoes, cherry, hothouse, and grape, because I have a tomato eater in my family, and, there's so many of them, and I know this next week they're going to love all of this heat. And then I have basil, because it's a companion plant for tomatoes, so you put basil, like, throughout your tomatoes, and those we put it
Mm.
on pizza that I made 2
Yeah,
nights
it's
ago.
perfect.
Fantastic. I also have 2 different types of squash, which are growing, cucumbers, which I'm going to pickle here pretty soon. I have hot peppers and bell peppers, and then I have carrots, onions, and corn, and
Wow.
green beans.
And yet I have yet to see any of this produce waiting for me when I walk in the afternoons in the weather center. Just not a thing.
It's all been consumed as it's been
That's
coming into
fair.
the house,
You have
especially.
2 boys. That's understandable.
Well, and a husband who's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
about as consumption as that, but I guarantee there will come a time here in the next few weeks that there will be a little present waiting for you
Oh, I'll
in the
hold you
weather
to that.
center, because I expect it's been great. The garden that I took over, they actually left some really good soil for me,
Mhm.
and, so I didn't actually get the whole garden planted. This is only a small portion because there was a lot of weeds, and I pull all my weeds by hand, so I have a lot more garden to grow. So as I develop it in the coming years,
Yeah.
it's going to be a nice little. I'll just have to bring you over to, like, bring a bag and go grocery shopping in my
Oh,
little
yeah, that'd
garden.
be great. Cool, well, thank
Yeah,
you. I wanted a little update on your garden.
yeah,
I hadn't caught up with you in a while.
yeah. I probably have, like, more than half a dozen ears of corn that
Wow.
I'm just so excited to make burgers and corn. I just can't
Oh,
wait.
yum. That's like the perfect summer barbecue meal.
Yes, and salsa and all those kind of
Mm,
things. Oh, I just can't wait. So it's doing really well. I'm
great.
really glad I got in. It's renewed my faith. I can garden again.
Yeah, you're like, "It's not me, it's
I was
just."
starting to think it was me, but no,
Yeah,
it was
no,
it was the
it's the
location
location.
did not
Yeah,
work so well. So it was
yeah,
good stuff. So I'll make sure and share that with you. Okay, I
nice.
think I think that's all that we have for you all
Mhm,
today. So we appreciate you again listening and sticking with us. Of course, we're going to be watching these temperatures. There is talk amongst the weather team. We might be backing things off
mhm,
as we go over the next coming days. So, just keep an eye on that. Keep watching us. Make sure to get that Fox 12 Weather app if you
yep,
don't have it, because we do send updates to that on an hourly basis, depending on what's going on.
yep.
And we'd like to keep you updated. And you can also send your photos to us through there. So I think that's all we have for you. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you next
So
time.
stop your waiting and hesitating and tell us